Have you ever gone camping by yourself? You're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible co-host and wife, Patty Hunt. And today we're going to tell the inspiring story of someone who started over in a whole new field. And not only that, that new field was starting a magazine.
Wow. So have I ever gone camping by myself? The answer is no. Dan and I have been traveling for 2 years together, just crossing over the United States several times. We have a YouTube channel and started this podcast to inspire people and hear inspiring stories.
Now, we are in South Carolina right now. We've been here for about 2 weeks, just a little shy of 2 weeks now. And you know, last week when we recorded our podcast, it was raining. This week when we're recording our podcast from the inside of our RV, it's raining again. But we're loving South Carolina.
It is beautiful here, but I got to go back to this idea of our guest today starting over. And for me, I was a teacher for 20 years, so I totally started over. You've been in film for, well, your whole life. And so this is kind of the same, although doing it out of an RV is starting over. It's a little different.
Just a little bit different. But now it's time for one of my favorite features of the entire week. It is this week's Fun Fact of the Week.
Let's find out how many people took a solo camping trip in 2021.
Now, the answer to this fun fact is a little fuzzy because the numbers, when you look at different websites, kind of lean from one side to the other. But the research kind of led to the fact that over 1 million people, 1 million people took solo camping trips last year.
Now, the research showed that 40% of those people were female and 60% were male. And again, a little surprising to me.
Actually, yeah, I thought that female number would be a lot lower. But I say that, and then I think, you know, we have had a lot of solo female camper neighbors over the last 6 months. I mean, not one or two. I'm talking about 8 to 10 different solo female campers over the last year. And we're going to talk all about that as we talk to our guests. But first, you know, let's talk a little bit about Savannah, Charleston, this area, because Patty, it is just really, really beautiful here.
It is. And it's, you know, it's the fall right now. So visiting these places is very different. The fall leaves have fallen, but Savannah, what a beautiful area. I've never personally stayed in South Carolina and then to go to Savannah, Georgia. It was just about 45 minutes away. Just a beautiful place to be.
It really, really was. And we took our bikes over there. We did a bike trip. We did a video. That'll be up on Exploring Through Our Lens sometime in the month of December or so, maybe into January. But we had a really, really great time. But I'm really looking forward. What I'm really looking forward to is our trip tomorrow to a lighthouse.
Yes, we have this thing for lighthouses. We visited an amazing lighthouse on the Pacific Coast Highway in Oregon, right? Wow, what an amazing lighthouse. That video is up on our YouTube channel, but I can't wait to see the lighthouse over the next couple of days.
You know, the point is here we are at a Thousand Trails campground. It's called the Oaks in South Carolina. It's about a half hour from Savannah, about an hour from Charleston, about 15 minutes from this lighthouse we're talking about. But the point is, what we really like to do is enjoy the journey. There is so much to do in this beautiful United States, and enjoying the journey, not just the destination that you go to, is really, really important to us.
It is. And we talk about that all the time. Just take your time and enjoy what's around you. Enjoy the journey.
You are listening to the RV Life Podcast. We're going to be back with our special guest, the publisher of the Girl Camper magazine, right after this.
Why end your camping season when it gets cold? With the inflatable RV skirting system from Air Skirts, you could extend your camping season year-round. Reach out to Jim and his team by visiting airskirts.com for more information. RV Life Podcast listeners get $100 off a kit order when you use code RVPOD. That is RVPOD for $100 off.
Selling your RV after years of enjoying it should not be painful. Whether you're upgrading, downsizing, or simply ready to sell, the experts at National Vehicle will help you set a proper valuation for your RV, list it, and sell it when you are ready. An RV valuation is always free at National Vehicle. Get started today by visiting nationalvehicle.com/RVLife. When it comes to understanding the true value of your RV, reach out to the experts at National Vehicle.
This is the RV Life Podcast. Our guest today calls herself Camper and Chief, but it's not stopping there. She is an interior designer. She's a camper. She's a mom. She's a wife. She's a podcaster with over 220 episodes. She's a blogger. She's the founder of the Girl Camper magazine, the Girl Camper herself, Janine Pettit.
Welcome to the show, Janine.
Patty, I'm thrilled to be here. RV Life is just one of my favorite brands out there. Such a great go-to place for everything you need. And I'll tell you, even this Camper in Chief relies on you guys.
Great to hear. And you have such an amazing resume. We are so excited to have you on the show and talk to you today. And I just want to jump in. How did Girl Camper come to be? Talk to our audience and tell them how that came to be.
Well, they say that you just do what you love and that, the work will follow it. And it's sort of a story of a chapter 2 for me because, I guess it would be chapter 3, like there's all those years you're growing up and living under your parents' roof. And then I got married and raised my family. And not in a million years did I ever imagine myself doing this in my golden years, like starting a company when you're 57 years old, just when I thought I was going to be skating through and, having lunch with girlfriends. I took this camping thing to a different level, not really purposely. I just grew up camping. I loved camping. And when my youngest was in like 5th or 6th grade, I saw this thing online about women's camping groups, all, RVing women and, the getaway gals. And I'm like, what the heck? I love to camp. And my husband said, you should join them because I am never doing this with you. So I did.
Well, wait. Now, you are the Girl Camper, okay? You're the Camper in Chief.
Yeah.
But your husband doesn't camp with you?
Once in a blue moon, if we're close to home and other couples are coming. He is not above coming out to the campground and driving 30 miles home to sleep. I just thought once you take a non-camper camping, they'll fall in love with it. And he went camping with me. When our kids were little, I rooked him into a camp out and we were home and cleaning out our neighbor's borrowed pop-up. And he turned to me and he said, well, thank God that's over and you got that out of your system. But it wasn't out of my system. The only thing it did is put it back in my system. I just realized how much I had loved camping as a kid. And everything in me was like, I want to do this again. And so I found out about these women's camping groups and I joined all of them. And then I had an uncle who passed away and he left us a tidy little sum of money, not enough to retire, but enough to like redo your kitchen or buy a camper. And so my husband said to me, you go get yourself that camper because I was kind of tent camping with all of these women's groups and he didn't want me in a tent. And he's like, go get yourself a little camper and have some fun. And so that's what I did for a number of years, just while my youngest was still getting through school. And it was mainly just a couple weekends in the spring, a couple weekends in the fall, and the summers were family vacation time, you know, and it got me through those bonus years of motherhood because our kids are quite spread out. And, there's a 13-year age gap between our oldest and youngest. So when our oldest graduated from college, our youngest was in 4th grade. And so I had a ways to go, right? And anyway, so I was having fun doing this, but what I realized when I was doing it, because I came from a very can-do family, and I towed my parents' camper when I was 16 years old on a brand new driver's license in Illinois, where I grew up. You're licensed at 16 years old. And when I was 18, I drove my parents' motorhome with my dad, the two of us taking turns from New Jersey to Illinois and back. And I was never afraid of the mechanics of it. But I noticed that a lot of women were making some rookie mistakes. And there wasn't like really a resource. There wasn't an RV Life then. You know, this was 15 years ago. So I just started writing a blog about chains and safety and making sure your tow vehicle is big enough for the camper you're towing. And that all just morphed into what we have today.
Oh, wow. So what kind of camper do you have now?
Right now, I have a 2021 Keystone Hideout. And I'm trading it in. I've loved the Hideout. It has a Murphy bed up front, and it has a lot of counter space, which is what I really wanted. But now I'm a grandma, and I just have one child out of my 4 that is willing to camp with me. So my son, who thru hiked the Appalachian Trail, and his wife and baby. So I'm trading that in for a Keystone Solo, which has a set of bunk beds in the back, and the bunk beds fold up, and there's a rear door that's going to allow me to bring my Quadrini electric bike with me. So I'm kind of hooked on that bike now and like to take it everywhere. So, you know, this is the thing about the RV industry. They're building something for all of us, you know. So this will be my 3rd RV in about 6 or 7 years. So I had my old one for quite a few years, probably 5 years or 6 years. And then I got the Hideout, and I've had the Hideout 2 years. And now I want to carry my bike inside, and I want more space for expanded family camping, grandma camping.
Grandma camping. I'll tell you what, electric bikes have literally changed our life. I mean, they open up all these things you can do. I know that's another show altogether, but just love the electric bikes. They really, really are so much fun.
They are so much fun.
And they're so functional because we can just do things that we couldn't do before. You told that story, and it just reminded me of our story. And it's very, very similar in that Patty had never really camped before. And when I told her that we wanted to go full time, she thought camping was going to a Holiday Inn Express. But like you said, your husband didn't catch the bug. I think Patty really did catch the bug in those first 30 days.
Yeah.
So it was really, really incredible. Patty started with Girl Camper and your Facebook group. That it's an open group, correct? That's for anybody. It's not a private group.
It is. It's a public group.
Okay. So Patty started with that in that first month. She found your group, and it's been like her little support system when things aren't going her way. But I have to ask, it's called Girl Camper. What about us guys?
You're on your own. You know what? It's Girl Camper because it's girls. And people, I want to clarify this because some people take the phrase Girl Camper and they say, we're women. What are you talking about? And it's not about politics or any of that nonsense. I call it Girl Camper because somehow it's my personal belief, and a lot of women around the campfire agree with me on this. women wear a lot of hats in this life, okay? We're wives, we're moms. Most of us still work. We're taking care of aging parents. We're getting children launched and off the ground. Women are much more likely to be a community servant or volunteer than men are. We're out there with our churches and our community and our groups that you wear a lot of hats. But somehow when you get out to the campground, you're 12 again. You're laying on the grass and you're looking at clouds and you're saying, that looks like an elephant. And so I call it Girl Camper because when I'm out at the campground, I just leave all of those things behind. And suddenly the world seems full of possibilities to me and wonder and awe and just, it's just a giant reset button. So it's Girl Camper because I want all women to know if you are married to a couch potato or some guy who's always had his own hobbies, because men have a way of being able to keep their hobbies while raising a family, and women statistically don't. They're not golfing and going on hunting trips while they're raising a family. So you get to the end of that, you've launched these kids, the husband has all of his stuff and you don't have anything of your own. So rather than sit at home and be a golf widow waiting for him to come home, you got to get your own life going. So there are many, many women who are just like, I love this and this is what I want to do. And frankly, it is so much fun for women to camp with other women. I mean, we have a blast together.
I love that. And I can totally relate. Mom, wife, career, taking care of the kids, giving up my hobbies. I didn't even know they existed when I was raising kids. And now Dan and I do travel together, but this idea of a community of women really struck me. So that's why I'm part of a number of Facebook groups, but Girl Camper was one that I really enjoy and stick with because there are times I just want to hear from other women. I think going out and being part of a women's community, I've not experienced that a whole lot yet. Here and there, groups of people we've camped with, the women will go off and I've learned certain things from them. It's such a great and supportive community. So I highly recommend anybody out there go into the Girl Camper Facebook, Instagram page. But let's share a little bit with our community about the magazine, because the story you told us was very, very touching. So can you share a little bit about the magazine?
Well, they say you write the book that you want to read, and I'm just a magazine junkie. I worked in interior design for 20 years before, while I was raising my kids. I only have one skill set that I could say I could do professionally, and that is that I am an advanced tailor and seamstress. And I love to sew. I never get tired of it. I had a giant workroom over our 3-car garage. I put my daughter through private high school making pillow shams and swags and jabots, and I love to sew. And so I had this whole thing going where I was going to just keep going in that direction, and I was talking to my daughter on the phone one day, and I had piles and piles of interior design magazines and everything surrounding me. And I was talking to her and I'm like, the kids always give me Barnes and Noble gift cards, and I would go there and, I'm buying the same magazines over and over, but I'm looking for a camping magazine, because the thing about women camping is it's a little more aesthetic than men. I wouldn't call myself a glamper, but I am much more likely to put a couple extra candles on the picnic table and to make sure there's rugs inside the camper. And I do have throw pillows in my camper, So I wanted something that kind of fed that thing of mine about camping being a lifestyle and not just a campsite. We got in, we got out. And so I called my daughter on the phone and I'm like, oh, I just wish I could take this up a notch. And she's like, Mom, you absolutely can, and a couple of years earlier when I had just started Girl Camper, my daughter, was convincing me that I could create a brand out of Girl Camper. And I didn't really even know what an influencer was. And she worked in marketing in Manhattan for a Fortune 500 company. And she's like, Mom, write this down. And she said, this is your path. And I did everything she told me to do. But after that conversation, my daughter sent me an email a couple hours later. And what she had done, I guess to give me a boost in confidence, was she wrote up a life skills resume for me. And it was so touching because it was everything she had seen me doing when I was raising her and the other kids, charity things that I got off the ground, and just the way I was able to manage a household and somehow squirrel the money away for the vacation we didn't think we were going on. And she just wrote me this life skills resume with a little note that said, Mom, you have what it takes, and I'm so proud of you. And it was so touching. And so when COVID hit, and Girl Camper was up and running, the podcast was going. We had just started doing Girl Camper chapters across the country, hosting events. Then all of a sudden, my weekends were clear for the winter. Normally, I'm at an RV show around the country every other weekend in the winter. And all of a sudden, everything was canceled and we were all at home. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to start a magazine. And my initial thought is I would put out just a single issue of Girl Camper magazine and kind of see what kind of reaction we got. And I almost immediately pivoted and said, I'm going to put out a quarterly magazine and I'm going to go by the season. So we started with the summer of 2020, height of COVID, right? It cost me $15,000 of my own money to print the first cut. Didn't have a single subscriber. And it's sort of a fun story because I look at it like women of a certain age tend to get dismissed. And I'm not one claiming isms attached to everything, but there is an ageism, and there is a tendency to dismiss women I was 57 or 58 at the time I, started the magazine. Oh, no, actually it was the summer I turned 60. So to be 60 years old and I took all the money I had made at the podcast, which I was just saved in the bank for a rainy day. And I started this magazine I had no subscribers. I had no advertisers, but I sat down with a pad of paper and I wrote down everything I wanted that magazine to be. And I didn't want it to be an RVing magazine. I wanted it to be a camping magazine, and I wanted it to be centered on women so we could encourage them to just grab life by the horns and do their thing. So I just dove in and did it, and we've always been in the black, I'm happy to say.
I love that story about taking your life skills. Your daughter hit it right on the point. That's a great message to our viewers.
Well, we got to take a break right now, but when we come back, I want to talk about the physical magazine, because this thing is just really impressive. It's not like Time magazine that's like a little chintzy little paper. It really rocks. So we're going to talk about that right after the break.
When traveling in your RV, how do you navigate? Do you use a paper map, a GPS, or do you use Google Maps? Our sponsor, RV Trip Wizard, has the solution, and it just works.
And it does just work. Do you use RV Trip Wizard? I should ask you that before we started, but do you use RV Trip Wizard?
I just got RV Trip Wizard, and here's the thing: like a lot of people, I was not traveling anywhere during COVID, so I'm on the road again, and I'm just so eager to dig into that. I'll tell you, it's a huge hit in the Girl Camper community, and it's something you see talked about in our Facebook group all the time. And I can't wait to dig into it myself because I'll be taking my camper down to Florida this winter and heading south in February and March, just getting out of the snow here in New Jersey. And so I'm dying to use it.
Well, I'll tell you what, we don't move an inch in our RV. Now, we have a 40-foot Class A. We do not move an inch without logging it in RV Trip Wizard and getting a plan together before we do. Now, for those of you that are listening, there is a discount code if you're interested in RV Trip Wizard. It is in the show notes below. You can get 25% off by using the code there. Now, the magazine. I have to say, impressed is not the right word. This magazine is more like, I don't know, almost like a catalog or or a program from the Academy Awards. It's just really, really quality. Tell me about the thought process of, putting such a class piece together.
Well, I don't throw magazines away, much to my husband's lament. So I am one of those people who will go into Barnes and Noble and spend $15 on a magazine when I know that magazine contains a great deal of inspiration. So there was a couple of things I wanted right off the bat, and that was that all of our content would be original. So a lot of times in the publishing world, I'll buy a magazine and I'm flipping through it and I say to myself, I've seen these pictures before. Well, that's because they're out there on the web and you can purchase them and you can put them in there. And I hate to buy content that I've already purchased once already. So when you see something in Girl Camper Magazine, we created it for that issue and it was never anywhere else before. You're not going to purchase a magazine and see something that you've already bought someplace else. The other thing I wanted was to keep our editorial and our advertisements at an incredibly high ratio. So we have a 75% editorial and 25% ads. So we really wanted to pack that magazine with a whole lot of content. And the third goal of mine with the magazine was to create something so beautiful you could never throw it away. So it is slightly larger than most magazines. We print the cover on 100-pound paper, and the interior pages are 70-pound paper, and it's very, very colorful and bright. And we cover all kinds of topics in the magazine, from RV maintenance to traveling with a pet to food and recipes and kitchen hacks and organizing. And then we do Girl Camper stories. Like, we want to inspire you by letting women tell the story of how they got out there on the road or why they chose the particular RV they did. And then we also do campgrounds we love, because when we find a campground we love, we want to tell everybody about it. So it's just chock full of all different kinds of things that and road trips. We always do something we call America the Beautiful. So there's 3 segments in each, 3 features in each magazine about some place in the country you're going to want to go to. And when you get there, here's some fun things to do. So that was my vision for the magazine, and it's pretty much unchanged. We just published our 10th issue, and we've stuck to that format because it's working.
Now, you publish the magazine 4 times a year. Is there also an online version?
Yeah. So there's 1 million RVers out there that are on the road. They don't get snail mail. And so you can purchase the magazine. That's
the full-timers, yeah.
Yeah, you can purchase the magazine for $20. And if you went on today and purchased Girl Camper in digital or in paper, you get every back issue in digital that we have ever put out there. So when you buy it, whether you buy it digitally or to be delivered, you get all the digital copies that we've already put out. So that'd be a lot of reading. That would take you through a little while.
Yes, absolutely. I am reading them and just really enjoying them. I'm waiting for my hard copy to come in. I can't wait to feel it and touch it. So we've been talking about you, and the question is, what now? Where do you see, what's happening now? Take us through. Tell us about where you're going from here.
Well, I'd like to say I'm going to rest a while and just coast on, it took us 2 solid years to get the magazine to where it is. We have an incredible executive editor of the magazine. Her name is Kim Foley McKinnon. She happens to be the president of the Society of American Travel Writers, too, and she is a treasure. So we have the magazine running at a nice clip now. Everyone's got their jobs. Everyone does their jobs. So, I'd like to breathe a while and get out on the road and do some fun stuff. But we do have a fun project coming up in Boston at the Boston RV Show in January. So if you're in New England or you just want to jump on a plane and go, we're going to have a Girl Camper Expo there. So there are going to be speakers and demos and just kind of change the landscape of what an RV show looks like. Because usually it's just you go up and down a lot of rows and there's some educational conference in some side room or something. But this is going to be much more experiential where we're talking about gear and we're talking about like RV Trip Wizard and walking people through it. And we're talking about food that we love. And we're having guest speakers come in and just showing off our gear and the things that we do that make road tripping so much fun. So rather than just going up and down the rows of an RV show, where it's going to be a little more experiential.
That is really, really incredible. And I think that it's something that really gives back to the community. And that's something that's really near and dear to Patty's and my heart. One of the things that when we spoke a few weeks ago, you talked about magazine number 1. Now you're on 10 right now. So magazine number 1, you pretty much wrote a lot of it and did a lot of it and laid a lot of it out. Tell us a little bit about the journey from you, yourself, and you to you, yourself, and a staff.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's. I have a fantastic staff now. I'm so proud of our team. We've been really blessed. I mean, from the very beginning, we had the most incredible designer for the magazine because the picture is in my head. And you can hire writers, you can hire technical people. It's very hard to hire creative people. And so finding that digital designer to put the magazine, graphic designer to put the magazine together was a story in itself. I had a pile of old magazines. I went through them all and I'm like, these are my favorites. Let me see who designed these magazines. And it was 3 or 4 different titles published by separate publishing houses years apart. But when I went to the masthead, it was the same designer on every single one of those magazines. So I called her up and I just thought maybe she could introduce me to someone, or maybe she had an intern that worked for her once that she might be able to send our way. But she said, no, you know what? I've always wanted to design a magazine myself from the bottom up. So she took our project on and she did the first 3 magazines that we put out, and she just got us. She got the look that we wanted. And if you don't have that, you don't have anything. You're like, that was so key. And then sadly, at 38 years old, she passed away from a pulmonary embolism. She had struggled with pulmonary problems for years. And her little brother called us up and said, this magazine was so important to my sister, and would you give me a chance to take over where she left off? So Shannon has been our director ever since, and we've got Kim. So in the very first issue, me or my business partner, Diane, who started the magazine with me, Diane McNamara, who has worked in the RV industry for many, many years. It was Diane and I, and we were putting it all together, and we were writing things ourselves, but we would just write staff written. We didn't want everybody to know that it was Diane and I. So now, because Kim is the president of the Society of American Travel Writers, all of our writers are paid. They're all experienced travel writers. They're all authentic RVers themselves. So we're super proud of the trajectory that the magazine has taken.
Wow, you've done so much. And I think what really hit home when we talked, and I think we scheduled a 10-minute conversation and talked for 30. you went from the left to the right, or so to speak. You just really did something totally different here. And you talked about fear.
Yeah.
And I just want you to give our listeners a little bit about that and talk about fear the way we discussed it. I think that's very inspiring.
Well, it's just a topic that comes up a lot, because when you think of just man, woman, old or young, you're getting in a vehicle, right? Either a big motorhome like that, which is like driving a city bus, right? Or even if you're getting in a Subaru and you're towing the tiniest of teardrops behind you, you are in charge of a recreation vehicle on a highway. And that's not the same as driving a car. Once you do it for a long time, it's second nature and you've created a muscle memory and you're good at it. But diving into the deep end of that pool is very hard for people. And there is a fear associated with that. And then you have to overcome all the people in your life who are like, you're not safe on the road. Oh my gosh, what if? And you've got to turn all those people off. And years ago, somebody told me about the word fear. And if you break fear down this way and use this acronym, false evidence appearing real. So what is actually something to be fearful about? Like, really, you're in your RV at night. Are you in danger from bears? You're not, but somebody read some story once online and, now they're going to apply it to you and put the fear of God in you. So you don't want to go anywhere or do anything. So a lot of what we do at Girl Camper is helping people separate what's an actual realistic thing you need to be concerned about and take steps toward no, you do have to make sure your tires are properly inflated and you have to do a safety check and make sure you're hooked up correctly and that's not coming off and that all your bells and whistles are working. And then separate that out. And then, just try to encourage them. So a lot of people say to me, well, you're a women's empowerment group. And I say, I like to think of us as a women's encouragement group because there is nothing in me that thinks we're disempowered. There's just things we don't know yet. There is no special skill set that that men have for RVing and nothing connected to a uterus that keeps you from doing these things. So just get out there and do it.
I love that.
When you talk about that, I just want to talk a little bit about a safety thing and something that we kind of learned the hard way. We kind of, other than driving, so Patty does not drive the city bus, as you call it, but we kind of are now cross-trained on everything to do, from hooking it up to hooking the car up that we tow to all of that kind of stuff. Talk to me about how important it is that you can do everything out there when you go camping.
It's really important. And it's not brain surgery. I remember, so one of the things we do is something called Camper College, where we partner with RV dealerships and we just bring people into the dealership and literally circle the RV and show people, this is where the water goes in. This is where the water comes out. This is your plug. Here's the sewer hose. This is how you dump your tanks. And when people get done, it's always surprising to me. They're like, oh, really? That's all? I thought it was so much more complicated than this. So we try to demystify trailer ownership. But like for you two, in the situation you're in, and I've heard this story so many times, Dan, I hope to God nothing happens, but if you tripped and broke your ankle and then you'd be stuck somewhere because Patty doesn't drive the thing. So maybe the starting point for Patty is some long stretch of lonely highway across Kansas, on a sunny day where you just get behind the wheel for 30 miles and start getting your sea legs. But everything is out there on YouTube too. Maybe not the driving tips as much as how to dump your tanks, how to troubleshoot that beeping noise. It's all out there. And for many, many years, I would sit in the RV at night and read my owner's manuals. Like, why is this making a noise? And try to figure out what these things were. And I'm still learning. One of the reasons I'm always reluctant to get a new RV is because I finally got this one down, and I don't want to start over on the learning
Exactly.
curve.
Exactly.
But it is super important that we know how to operate our own RVs.
I absolutely agree. And yes, I will overcome my fear and get behind the wheel. I will make that a mission. And it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. And I'm sure we could talk for an hour longer at least to give a lot of great information to our listeners. But as all good things must come to an end. So we just want to thank you so much for being with us and take the time to share your amazing wisdom with our community.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
It is really great. The Girl Camper is out there. You have a Facebook group. You have an Instagram page. You can get the magazine on thegirlcamper.com. All of the information will be in the show notes. But it's just been great talking to you, meeting to you, getting to know you. Are you going to be down at Tampa?
Most likely. I normally am in Tampa. And, my dad used to say, God willing, and the creek don't rise. So that's the plan.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll get together and be able to have dinner or something when we're down in Tampa.
I would love that. That would be wonderful.
You are listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt, and we'll be back right after this. National Indoor RV Centers with over 1,000 motorhomes available across multiple locations. National Indoor RV Centers continues to provide an outstanding hassle-free motorhome ownership experience. National Indoor is the #1 Newmar dealer in the nation and also features brands like Integra, Winnebago, and much more. Visit nirvc.com and become a part of the National Indoor RV Centers family.
Clear 2O continues to bring its expanding line of water filtration products to RVers with innovations such as their DirtGuard sediment pre-filter, their 1-micron solid carbon block inline water filter, and a wide variety of high-quality filters for your RV's whole house filter system. When it comes to clean water for your RV life, the answer is clear. Clear 2O. Visit clear20.com and use the coupon code RVLIFEPODCAST to save an additional 5% on every purchase.
This is the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt. We got Patrick Buchanan from RV Trip Wizard coming up in just a minute.
But first, I want to talk about Clear 2O. This is a water filter system that we've been using. And I got to say, I'm so excited because I have been lugging large bottles of water to fill the coffee maker, to drink. I've been, buying packs and packs of bottled water, a lot of waste that I don't want to have to do. I'm excited. The water tastes better. I know it's cleaner. Just so excited.
And it's really funny how the universe kind of throws things at you. Because Clear 2O, who is a sponsor, and you just heard their commercial a few seconds ago about of the RV Life Podcast, we've actually first heard of Clear 2O when we were in Hershey, Pennsylvania, or outside of Hershey, Pennsylvania, and our next door neighbor, Sean, was talking to me about his system and his water softening system. And don't you know, that very day, Patrick Buchanan from RV Life picks up the phone, calls us and says, you know what? We got another sponsor. It's Clear 2O. Isn't that odd the way those things happen?
Now, Dan said water softener, but we're actually talking about a water filter. Water softeners are a topic for another time.
While we were talking about that, a topic for another time, we actually last week did a video, not just on Clear 2O. We use Clear 2O as the example, but we kind of talked about water filters and what a micron is and why it's important to get down at least below 5 microns but this water phosphorate gets down to 1 micron. We're really, really excited about it. So you might want to check that out. There's a link to it in the show notes below.
Now it's time to hear from Patrick Buchanan of RV Life with his pro tip for the week.
Our RV Life pro tip this week is about fuel tracking in RV Life Trip Wizard. By entering your fuel capacity, reserve, and miles per gallon, RV Trip Wizard can show you exactly where you'll need fuel for your RV or truck along your planned route. Locate fuel stations ahead of time and plan all your fuel stops before you ever get behind the wheel. Eliminate fuel anxiety about when and where you can fill up your RV by planning ahead with RV Life Trip Wizard. Visit tripwizard.rvlife.com to learn more or stop by the RV Life Podcast Facebook page. I'm Pat Buchanan with your RV Life Pro Tip of the Week.
Fuel tracking. I got to tell you, that is something that is so important now that diesel and gasoline are so much money. And I got to tell you, we saved a lot of money last week.
Yeah. So what we do is we look at where we are for gas, and then I could look at the areas, and in this case, the states that we're going through to find the best price. We saved $1 a gallon. And when you're buying how many gallons?
86 gallons.
86 gallons. Do the math. It's a lot of money.
It was a very, very good day when we pulled in, and I think it was $4.11, right?
Yes, that's what it was.
Now we're not sponsors of the TSD School fuel card, but I will tell you what, if you don't have one of those and you drive a diesel pusher like we do, you want to look into it, and it's really, really worth the money.
It is. Now, let's talk about the question of the week. So each week we bring on one of our listeners and they ask a question that's on their mind. Today, we're going to hear from Jordan.
Hi, this is Jordan Temez. I'm from New Jersey, a full-time RVer for about 4 months now, and I am very curious to know what are some tips to maximize your gray water usage so that if you don't have sewer, what are some best ways to make sure you can let it last?
Jordan, that is a really, really good question. It was something that we struggled with maybe for the first month or two, because we were actually dry camping for the first 45 days of our life in an RV. So I have my very, very first thought on that. I saw your trailer. I saw what you're in. My first thought on that is get a bigger RV, like a diesel pusher, where we have an 80-gallon gray tank against your 35-gallon gray tank.
So for those of you that's not an option for now, Jordan travels with her husband and her baby, and she said there's a lot of bathing and doing clothes. And I have to say, one of the greatest pieces of advice I got from our friend Terry were tubs, little type tubs that you put in a sink to collect the water. I love the collapsible type buckets or tubs. And then you take those and you take it outside and you go water a tree or a plant. It doesn't seem like it'd be that much space that you're saving, but you'd be amazed at how much water that is not going into the tank by using these buckets in the sinks or in the shower.
Now, another thing that you can do, and this is something that we did after that first month that we were on the road, is we bought what they call a low flow shower head. And they're made especially for RVs. You can see them around all over the place. And if you just put low flow shower head in Amazon, you can just go to an Amazon and see it. But I measured this. I physically measured this before I did it. This low flow shower head uses about half, just a little bit less than half of the water that our previous shower head did. And I feel like it's got a stronger jet out.
A stronger jet out. Yes, that explains it. It's got a lot of pressure, I think, is what he's trying to say. But we have an incredible show coming up for you. We have YouTube superstars, Happily Ever Hanks. We had the opportunity to speak with them for a long, amazing conversation because these are two very real, incredible people. If you get the chance to meet them, it's a must.
Yeah, it really, really is a must. And I mean, these guys are, what did you say? They are YouTube what?
Superstars, I said.
Okay, if you want to call them superstars. But you know what? They are great people. They're incredibly human beings. You really want to be with us next week. You do not want to miss this show next week. So that's about it for today. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt, and we are in South Carolina. We're at the Oaks. It's a Thousand Trails property. We love Thousand Trails properties, and you can too. There's a link in the show notes down there where you can get more information about Thousand Trails. Anyway, I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt, saying, have a great rest of today.
And an even better day tomorrow.